Hello everyone and welcome back to another week at the Damage Report. It's Monday, which can be a little bit rough for obvious reasons, even during lockdown, so every week we have a guarantee for you. We will attempt, in whatever limited capacity we have, to make it as fantastic as possible with Francesca Fiorentini. How's it going, Franny?
Hello. It's good, John. I
Glad to have
think.
you here. I think
Is it
so.
we good?
I think we're good.
We're okay.
Can I say one reason, and I'm saying this to warn you, but also the audience.
Yes.
I have had a caffeine problem during the pandemic. Like, I wake up at 6,
I know.
I chug a coffee, then I drink a Monster, and then I have another coffee during the show. That's all by 10:30. So that's too much, clearly. And then I'll have another coffee later on the day. So I've
Oh,
been working over the past few weeks to get it down. I am on day 3 of one coffee. That's it. So
out
if I'm a little bit
one,
tired,
3 down to 1.
yes, this is decaf, so I am drinking something, but yeah. Well, 3 plus a Monster, down to 1. And so I'm trying to be a little bit healthy. I know that
And a
people in the
Monster
audience
is
are
like
worried.
7 cups of
It's
coffee.
like 250 milligrams of coffee. But anyway, some people in the audience had expressed a concern that my heart might literally explode on air. So I decided, okay, will that get likes? Sure. Is that
Yeah,
a
I
good
mean,
path?
will we
Probably.
break records? Obviously.
Can I break Ninja's live concurrent? It's like the stream lasts for 20 minutes of me dead and just more and more people
God.
watching.
The dogs take over.
Let's not do that. Let's not. We
You would make it
specifically-
onto mainstream media, John.
You
Like
think?
Cuomo would have to do a little thing like,
Yeah.
what happens when you live stream for too long? Like
Cuomo would be the
broadcasters
only
in
one.
quarantine.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So people are saying that my audio is out of sync with my video. If it is, I can't do anything about it. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, yeah, trying to be a little bit healthier. You seem very healthy. The pandemic is treating you well health-wise, I think. You're doing
Thanks.
more filming.
I'm investing in liquor. Yeah, I mean, great. I
Mhm.
just have less coffee and more liquor.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like
I
not
haven't cut
a
back on
lot,
that.
and like classy, super classy, nice cocktails.
Yeah, that's good.
Only one,
That's
but
good.
maybe every day.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna try, I think next weekend, none. And we'll see how that goes
Good
with
luck.
how early we have to wake up. But I want to be like, I didn't enter the pandemic like a model, like a Greco-Roman model of health. I don't want to leave it dead. So
Please.
trying to take it a little bit more seriously. Anyway, thank you to everybody who's already here, who've joined us for our weekly discussion of caffeine and superfoods, other things like that.
We're gonna talk about goji berries for the entire
Goji
hour. I hope
berries?
everyone's ready.
Goji berries and underwear. That's pretty much it. Because Hendrik has already super chatted us. # show us the undies. So
Yes.
that's great. Thanks for that. Anyway, we got a lot of news. I'm not even sure what you are mimicking, but I don't like any of the possibilities.
The
So anyway,
bulge.
we're going to be talking about masks and the pandemic and racism and selling states and things like that. So it should be a lot of fun. Thank you for joining us. Feel free to tweet us at a #TDR Live. You can comment on Twitch or here on YouTube, and you can send in super chats, and we'll respond to those as we go. By the way, before we jump into it, just one last thing. I'm like promoting the stream we're on right now. How was Sunday's episode of your show, The Bitchuation Room?
Thank you. Yeah, the Bitchuation Room podcast was wonderful. We had Jackie Fielder on from the No Dapple protest, who's now running for California State Senate. She's DSA endorsed. She's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, and so we had a great discussion, and the podcast will be up later this afternoon. I just have to, get to it because
Exactly.
I'm my own producer, just like John is.
Exactly. Okay, you'll get to it when you get to it. Anyway, with that, let's jump into the news and see what the weekend hath wrought. Over the weekend, Trump decided to mix it up and gave us this. Him in
Wow.
a mask. Which, in a rational world, should be the least consequential thing in the universe. But considering the hell world we live in, that actually came as a massive shock. That Trump is protecting himself and others from a deadly disease during a pandemic that has lasted many months. Thoughts, Francesca?
No.
No?
No slow clap. You don't get anything. No
none.
points. No.
None.
No. I mean, first of all, it looks photoshopped. So I did look and found different angles.
It wasn't.
It was not. It was not photoshopped, but I was like, that initially it's like I can't tell if it just Trump always looks, I don't know, it just looked weird. It looked weird on him.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and looked, and no, there's other angles. You can see the full thing. It's around his face.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it wasn't, I know he just prefers like a hood, just a white hood instead of just the mask. He's like, might as well. But no points. I don't care. It's too late. No, 0 points.
Okay.
0 points.
Well, look, he did give an explanation of why he did it. He said, when you're in a hospital especially, I think it's a great thing to wear a mask. So even on the day of his triumph, kind of coming off as a moron, I will say, so I'm looking at this image, and I know that everyone's expecting, oh, how is John gonna burn him? No, I think he looks perfectly normal. Honestly, at the risk of offending people, if I were to look like Donald Trump, I would be looking for excuses to cover up parts of my body from view. I think that this is a good move for him. And although you have said you will not give him any credit, look, TDR had a mission over the past 2 weeks, and that was give credit to any Republican, elected or media, who wears a mask because of how consequential it is. And it looks like mission accomplished. We started crediting them 2 weeks ago, and now the president has worn a mask. So Trump, although I promised before you were sworn in that I will never, ever be fair to you, that's what I will give him.
One clap.
One minuscule clap.
Now, let's see your pull-ups.
No.
All right, can you go to the bathroom by yourself, or do you have the pull-ups?
Oh my God.
Let's see it, because I don't know. You could wear a mask around your big ugly face, but what about your undies? I'm just going to keep going with that bit. I don't care.
No.
I don't care anymore.
No, this is
I have
later.
Zero respect. But yes, no, it's true. It is good that he wore the mask at Walter Reed Hospital.
Yes. It was nice of him to not infect injured vets with a deadly pathogen. That was nice.
Mm-hmm. They already had to hear him speak.
Look, here's the thing. We're going to talk about a couple different angles on this. I will say, look, the fact that it took this long, behind the scenes, aides are saying they've been begging him for weeks to do it. We're at 135,000 confirmed deaths. It took to that for him to finally do the barest minimum. Just put on something covering your face. That's it. And so that's sad. But we do need others to wear masks. I think that for reasons that are very depressing in their own right, him wearing one is the most important potential change that can happen.
Yeah.
However, this is the damage report, so I have given him credit, and I shall also partially take it away, because after wearing a mask over the weekend and queuing up for people to give him credit, do you know what he did this morning? He retweeted Chuck Woolery, who said, "The most outrageous lies are the one about COVID-19. Everyone is lying. The CDC, media, Democrats, our doctors, not all but most, that we are told to trust. I think it's all about the election and keeping the economy from coming back, which is about the election. I'm sick of it." Not as sick as you would be, from coronavirus, which, since you're so anti-mask, you'll probably end up getting. But so he finally wears the mask, which people have been begging him to do for months now, and then immediately goes back to, the doctors are all lying, CDC's lying. You don't have to trust any of their advice, so let me, as thoroughly as I can, undercut the message that I sent by putting on the mask in the first place.
Let's just try to remember what any other president should or would do, which is not only wear a mask, not only take the CDC seriously, not only step aside and have briefings from health experts every single day and not make it about him, but minimum visit people who have suffered COVID-19 themselves and recovered, visit people who've lost loved ones.
Yeah.
Right? Actually show some empathy. If you call this a war, then meet with the military families, right? Meet with the doctors, meet with the nurses, meet with the people who you claim are on the front lines. But no. If it is a war, we all know that he has given up, he has surrendered ahead of time. And not only that, he's saying this war is all in your head. And that's why your mom's not there. In fact, she's there. But the 5G waves that Bill Gates set up with the Chinese are making it so her hologram is no longer visible to you.
The hologram's in your blood now. It
Yes.
gets in through the vaccines.
Exactly.
Vaccines would work if Earth wasn't flat, but it is. So vaccines don't work, as all people know. Except the lizards, they know other things. Anyway. And also you can buy a lizard person on Wayfair. Anyway, tying it all together. So we're not going to go super in depth with this, but the tweet from Chuck Woolery where I'm like, let's take away some of the credit he just earned. Like, understand, it's not just that he tweeted it. They came out of this weekend. We're not going to do a full thing. Maybe we will tomorrow. Like, Fauci is in the sights of everyone affiliated with the White House. Every reporter in the country got simultaneous like leaks that they were going to be tarring and feathering Dr. Fauci. So, look, is this what we've wanted? Have I been desperate to give Trump credit for doing something so easy? I have been. Even though I know the right is saying I'm just waiting to not give him credit. I want to. But he wouldn't give us 48 hours before going back to being irresponsible. And so that's depressing, considering the cost. Anyway, we're gonna go on with a little bit more on this in just a second. I did want to let you know that if you're already here, as 4,000 of you are, hit the like button, people, because many of you have apparently forgotten that that is one of the privileges and honors of being on the stream, is doing something with that like button. So anyway, with that, let's have a little bit more fun. Donald Trump wore a mask this week, which meant that many people, like myself, who didn't think he would, got to react with shock. Other people reacted with a level of thirst that is probably a threat to their health and perhaps their life. Jason Miller tweeted, "Joe Biden is finished." He's done. Look at that mask. Call it now. Time of death.
Look at how the gobble creeps out from below it. The folds under there. You're finished, Joe Biden. Sorry.
I didn't know Gandalf was such a MAGA head. So that's Jason Miller. Boris Epstein, who I think is on One America News. Good night, Joe Biden. So they agree. This is it. This is it. Now it goes beyond just that. Let's see. Brad Parscale, involved with the digital campaigning and everything, says America first. America first. Trump last,
Indeed.
though, because I think he was literally the last person to wear a mask.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
No, all of that, no. And also, I mean, this is what's so sad about this and all the praise that he's getting for it. And I know it's part of a coordinated, hey, build up my ego. And yes, please, tickle the underside of where on the internet. But it also shows me that he could have been wearing a mask from the get-go. And all these goons and grifters and sycophants would have lauded him from the beginning. Like, that they would have praised him and we would have been way better. Like, we would have absolutely prevented death, like, for sure. Now, I'm not saying all of it because we're not good at tracing, testing, or isolation, but mask wearing would have been, would have been something we had gotten. And we wouldn't have had those protests and people like defying mask wearing, et cetera. So all I'm saying is that it makes me sad because they could have, homies, you could have spun this from the beginning.
Yeah.
You didn't have
100%.
To politicize this.
Well, you're 100% right. The just the vigor and, dare I say, horniness with which Republican strategists have addressed this. So, like, the obvious follow-up question is, so then you wanted him to do this the whole time, right? Since you love it, you think it's such an amazing coup of political strategy, he should have done it before. So why there's such an implicit criticism of Trump in their praise now? Because so you're saying we were right. this whole time when we were begging him to do it. All the doctors and the media and the people on the left, we were 100% right, and you've now caught up to it. So you presumably wished you could have been doing all of this, like clapping and cheering this whole time, but you couldn't because he wouldn't wear it. So then why wouldn't he wear it? Why wouldn't he give you what you wanted when it's medically responsible in terms of public health and apparently great political strategy? What is it about him that made him put off this amazing victory for so long? They'll never answer that question, but it is interesting how much they're telegraphing that it's on their mind.
Joe Biden is done.
He's finished.
Good night, Joe Biden.
Well, okay, if you like that, can I show you one more? So this is KW Miller for Congress. So I think he's like a nonsense candidate. I think he was the guy that came up with the Beyonce's not black conspiracy theory. He said, I don't wear face masks, but POTUS is the only man who can pull it off and still look intensely masculine.
Oh, bruh.
By the way, so I think that one of the worst developments in American politics, like the sort of culture of American politics over the past 10 years, is the previously personal fetish about cuckism on the right becoming this like thing that we all have to talk about constantly. That said, he says, I don't wear masks. POTUS is the only man who can pull it off and still look intensely masculine. He's saying he can't. The president can. And so he bows to the superior masculinity of Donald Trump in this. That is tweet cucking.
No, it is. It really is. And you're absolutely right. Just the amount of conservatives on the internet who want you to know that they're virgins is just incredible. Like, like, he looks like a man. Oh, you got cucked. Oh, what a, like, I'm sorry. You've never had, okay, got it. Virgin, don't know where it is. Yeah, vagina is here. On the shoulder. Yeah, no, that's exactly, it's under the armpit. Yeah. Like,
that's
why would you, that's where they hide it. Under their scales. Like, it's just so obvious that and I know we're getting in. I think we're going to be talking about Tucker Carlson, which is
there's a bit of that in there.
There is a good bit of just misplaced masculinity. And yeah, I mean, I think what's beautiful about this administration is exactly that. I think if I were a guy and I saw looks like a man when he's wearing a mask, I would be really offended.
Yeah.
And I think this is such a great challenge to all men to be like, hey, that's not masculinity. And that's idiocy right there. And that doesn't define me. And so I feel like we're kind of, we're shedding a layer, speaking of lizards, but we're shedding this layer of BS masculinity. And I think that's good. And this like display of it is such a way to do that.
I 100% agree. I also I don't know if anyone in the chat has picked up on this, but you are like on the verge of debuting a new sort of comic redneck character. Your accent keeps going to that almost. So I look forward to more of that. But let's talk about why this is important. So the whole conversation about Trump with his mask and how the Republicans are horny for it and all of that. What's the point of all this? Is it just political theater? Well, no, it's mostly that. But it is consequential because polling up until, this is as of this morning, Gallup says 72% of adults wear a mask always or very often. Huge difference when you break it down by party ID. Democrats are at 94%, Republicans are down at 46%, with more than a quarter of Republicans saying that they never wear a mask outside of their house. That is very important. It's also an indictment of the masculinity we've been talking about because there's a huge difference based on whether you're a man or a woman. In terms of always wearing it, there's a 20-point gap between men and women because men have been taught that strength is being constantly terrified of looking weak. And so I would rather expose myself to a deadly virus than look like I'm worried about being exposed to a deadly virus. That's what we've got. And so the solution, it seems, is that the dumbest people in our country, like Donald Trump, the weakest people in our country, like Donald Trump, they have to lead by example. And that is why I am hoping that this will get through. And really fast, I want to show you a couple of tweets that our producer Angel showed me that imply that this might work. If he sticks with it, it might work. And that is important. Like, it's good for him politically, but it's good for us in terms of our lives. So take a look at this tweet from rando MAGA head Carrie Dixon back just 4 days ago, saying, you know why wearing a mask bothers the hell out of me? I literally feel like I'm capitulating to the CCP. That's my honest answer.
What?
That was pre-Trump wearing mask. Same rando, post-Trump wearing mask. He looks like an effing badass. So, that's good. Now, let's go back pre-mask. And we'll show you another pro-MAGA rando, assuming my folder ever loads. Thanks, Internet. You're the best. You're the best around. Here we...
It's okay, John.
It's good, too. Okay, I'm just going to read it. Anyway, okay, so we have Lucy W777 saying, no, I am not wearing a face mask, no matter what it says. This is in response to someone bringing up the possibility of a MAGA-branded Trump campaign mask. And this is back in May, I believe. It says, I'm not wearing it no matter what it says. Post-mask, coolest mask ever. How do I get one from the same individual? So these people felt like they were expressing a genuinely held value. That I don't want to wear a mask because it's tyranny. But it was just contingent on what Trump said at the time. Trump was anti-mask, so they were anti-mask. Eternally, they were anti-mask. Now he's pro-mask, so they think it's the coolest, most badass thing ever. It's stupid. And I know that any reasonable person watching all of this thinks, what a depressing country we live in, that this is how things function. But it is probably the way things function. And so, if Trump doing it gets more people to wear them, there are literally thousands, at least, lives on the line. And so...
Yes, lemmings. All the lemmings are like, whoa, 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 whoa. That looks steep. And you're like, yeah, yes. Yes, you idiot. You know, take the box off your head, take the egg crate off your head and look around. You know, and it's like, yo, you gotta replace this crate with a mask? Okay, I guess I can see better. You know, I mean, just, these are simple-minded people. I'm serious. And yeah, there's a weird borderline between, am I being ableist by making fun of Trump supporters? Because I swear, I don't know if they're at full mental capacity right now, or ever were. But can I just say, let's remember the mask thing is so minimal. Like, just like Trump makes everything a culture war issue, just like he boils everything down to its smallest essence, that even if there was a victory, like there's a victory where he puts on a mask finally, it still means nothing. Because guess what? A lot of the countries that have controlled this pandemic don't have mask regulations. Now, yes, they do on public transportation, in large public gatherings, etc. But what they have done is mass contact tracing, mass testing, and isolation. And yeah, that means someone's going to have to make sure that you, if you're sick, are staying home. Yeah. Right? And so I just want to remind everybody that, like, mask wearing is good, but mask wearing also does not enable us to go back to life as normal, unlike South Korea, which is pretty country of 50 million people, has pretty much got it under control.
Fran, I 100% agree with you. Tiny steps. Like,
baby steps.
This was the first step. By the way, when you said about the first of all, they wouldn't wear boxes on their head because that's what lib commie tyrants want you to do. But then I thought, what if you made masks that said had hashtag when we go one we go all or whatever, like, or hashtag Q, like, they'd want to wear it. They wouldn't want to cover their face, but they want to put the Q on their face. I think I could make a lot of money selling those. Anyway, okay, we've got some good news. It's coming up in just a minute, but before we do that, let's check with the super chat. And by the way, I know more people have joined us since I last said this, so please hit the like button if you haven't already. Maybe Francesca's cat will make an appearance. Cats sometimes creep into frame. You never know. Okay, so let's see. Jennifer Hampton started us off saying, happy Fantastic Monday. Much love to y'all from Western North Carolina. Thank you. Be safe in North Carolina. It's one of the ones being hit pretty hard. Elisa Burdick had a question. Where can I see your show, Francesca?
Ooh, you can see it on YouTube /FrannyFio or Twitch or Facebook. Also, it says a podcast, The Bitchuation Room. Exactly. Thanks for asking.
Charlie Ellis says, if there is no caffeine, there is no point. So here's the thing. Like, I'm not addicted to a lot of things, but if I could, I would just start drinking caffeine and not stop until it killed me. I love it so much.
You don't get beyond the point of productivity where you're like,
oh no, definitely,
like,
definitely. There are negative consequences of addiction. I grant you that. But you think I want to drink just one Monster? No, I want to see what happens with the second and the third Monster. I want to. That is the monster on my shoulder. Okay, it's a can. Anyway, Ginger Red Shoe says the mask is another photo op. He just wants the attention of everyone talking about him. Good. Yeah, probably. So let's give him that attention, and hopefully he'll keep wearing it. I know it's sad. It's pathetic, but lives are online. AJ, thank you. Alexa says mail ballot in early. Voting day will be insanity. Agreed. By the way, I saw polling done in Texas, and it was... how likely are you to take advantage of mail-in voting? And there was a massive gap between Democrats and Republicans because he has been telling the Republicans that it doesn't work, that it's fraudulent, all of this stuff. The Democrats don't seem to be affected by that. They still want to do it. They might not be able to, thanks to voter suppression, but they still want to. And with Biden currently leading by a couple points in Texas, his mail ballot, like, demonizing,
right.
that could cost him the state and the election. You dummy. Everything is bigger in Texas, including how much of an idiot Trump is.
I like
anyway,
that.
LA Silver Surfers, thank you. Dango Bengal says Okinawa U.S. Marine base COVID outbreak. Yeah, apparently the Japanese government is pissed at us, and they should be. Blue Heart Box says feels like Trump wore a mask immediately after Roger Stone's commutation. Do you agree it was an effort to redirect the stories? Maybe. It won't work here because we will be talking about that later on today. Jackie says, ask Mr. Woolery if he trusted the doctors that did his heart surgery. Good question. Let's see. Hendrick, thank you for your super chat, but can't read it. Melissa says, I crushed a mint edible and added it to my morning coffee, and it was kind of genius, especially with a little almond milk creamer in there. Delish. That's a lot of stuff. That's so much.
Wow, that does sound kind of nice. That sounds like a nice pick-me-up.
Mm-hmm. And take me down. Yeah.
And take me down.
Tree Batiki, thank you for your super chat. It's addressing the topic of our next segment. We have not often had good news during this pandemic, but we do have at least a little bit of limited good news today. New York City recorded no new coronavirus deaths in a 24-hour period for the first time in nearly 4 months on Saturday, according to preliminary data released by health officials. The agency in charge said that there were no confirmed deaths the day prior, but noted 2 fatalities were probable cases. So they're still looking into that. It could change in the future, but basically we had at least one day where apparently there were no deaths from the pandemic, which we haven't had for literally months at this point, and possibly other days as well. So, yay, good news.
I mean, yeah, I just think of the poor health workers, and the trauma that they must be going through. I mean, the amount of death that they've seen is completely unprecedented. Like, that's not normal for a healthcare worker. And yes, I mean, it's great. I think it's good for New York City. I am very scared that there's going to be yet another spike there. And I am curious as to know, like, if Cuomo really has a plan for doing some of those other things beyond the, like, people just staying at home.
Yeah.
It's hard, and I think we see reopening and people wanting to go outside and gather because it's frustrating,
Yeah.
Anyway,
do you think, because I fear the same thing. Like, the idea is, okay, you get it under control in one region. If it blows up in another, they could potentially travel. That's still certainly a possibility. We haven't really seen it yet. It seems like the South is like half of all the cases in the country. But do you think, like, my fear is Texas won't shut down again, or Florida won't shut down again. Do you think New York would shut down again?
I don't know. I mean, you saw Cuomo initially be super reticent about shutting down, right? He was talking about, well, this is the financial capital and Wall Street and this and that. And then I think once he saw he could score political points because Trump was being so inept, I think he got smart about it, obviously, and the cases were rising. But again, it's hard to separate the politics in this moment from, like, the pragmatism and truly where we need to go and what healthcare officials and health experts are saying.
Yeah. Anyway, just to reiterate again, like, we so rarely, especially in 2020, get any good news. There were, at the peak in April in New York alone, there were 800 people dying each day. That is, like, I know that we're just supposed to all ignore it and pretend that all this didn't happen, but one city, 800 people. Imagine that on one day, one time. But it was day after day after day. It took an incredible amount of work. Huge errors. Like, Cuomo did some good things. Don't let that make you forget that he also made terrible decisions as well. But also on the part of regular New Yorkers to actually abide by this. Not everybody did, but they were much better about it than we're currently seeing in some parts of the country. And so they deserve credit for that.
Right. And it's also unfair, though, because, I mean, this is an international city. And of course, there's people from Florida who go back and forth to New York. So, I mean, if I were in New York now, and I'm sure a lot of people watching are, it's a scary time because you're like, well, I've done all this work. We really got it under control. And how are we going to maintain these gains?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And hopefully we can. The issue is that this is... like, we're not different countries. We're just states. You can drive up the highway to New York from, one of the regions that are really badly hit. And we turn to one of those regions now. While New York is reporting great news on the pandemic, some states not so much. Florida on Sunday reported 15,299 new coronavirus cases. That is obviously, more than any other state. It's more than the vast majority of countries. It is worse than New York at its peak. Now, I understand we didn't have the testing capacity that we have now. It is likely that there were more cases in New York at its peak. But this is a massive mountain of cases, and DeSantis still doesn't seem like he's taking it remotely seriously. I mean, I know it's not the only one. Like, you could show numbers from Texas that are pretty bad. California's pretty bad too. But Florida takes the cake for number of cases, adjusting for population. Florida's like half the size of California, and it's got more coronavirus. Like, you can't ignore that. Texas is really bad, but Florida is just, it's so terrible. And it isn't just the cases. I know that, like the defenders of DeSantis and the Republicans and DeSantis himself, they'll say, well, these are younger people. It's just, we're doing more testing and younger people are getting sick. It's not a big issue. But the issue is that people are actually getting sick. They're not just getting coronavirus. Hospitalization numbers, we had nearly 7,000 on Friday. We had 7,500 on Sunday, a big leap in just a couple of days. The positivity rate is still above 11%. Now, that's trending down. It had been 18% on Wednesday, which is absolutely insane. But it's still high. It's still too high. And what are they doing about it? Well, one big change that happened over the weekend was that Disney World partially reopened on the day that Florida set single-day COVID-19 case records.
Was Goofy wearing a mask over his mask?
I don't know. That would be a good call. You should do that. You could see in that photo that someone is covering their face. It's not what I'm looking for exactly, although I think there is a mask on under that. Yeah, for all I know, they have full hazmat under the Mickey. I don't know. But it is still going to be people packed together. It's like we shut it down when there was way less coronavirus. And the same thing for schools. DeSantis wants to open schools. Like, we shut down the schools when there was less. Now, explosions of cases. No, got to open them up. Got to go forward. This is how people end up in hospitals. This is how people die.
I mean, Florida is such a bizarre and frightening mix of both arrogant young people going to spring break on Daytona Beach and a bunch of retirees who are in danger of dying if they get coronavirus. Obviously, everyone is in danger of dying. It's been like incredible how it responds in someone as young as, like 25. But still, like, there's a lot of older people, and then there's a lot of young people at the beach. So, like, the mix is really toxic and very scary. Then you add Disney World, and it's like, honestly, what are we doing here? What is this? And I feel like for me, and I know a lot of people have spoken about how where they work has experienced coronavirus cases, whether it's a Walmart or whether it's, a public official's office, wherever you work, you probably know someone who has coronavirus, and management is downplaying that time and time again. It's from the smallest business to the biggest business. But really, this is a striking moment within schools, within places like Disneyland, where we really have to start thinking about a reinvigorated labor movement, right? We will not defeat this. We will not stop this virus unless we have workers advocating for themselves. And I know the negotiation with Disneyland workers was a big thing and a big deal. But if there's an outbreak again, it's on. I mean, I would assume that those workers are going to demand that they shut down again and that there's some sort of compensation.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, we're being told to go back to work and to make bosses money at our expense, at our peril.
Yeah.
And teachers being told to open up schools at their peril, at the peril of the students, at the peril of their parents and the families associated. So what are we talking about, really? This is truly about the valuing of work and valuing of laborers and whether we do or don't. So,
yeah, 100%.
You know, hopefully something new will be born from this. And I think there's a lot of activity already. And I think we just have more to do.
Yeah. You know, in terms of how we respond, do we shut down and stuff like that, you remember like the super condescending moronic talking point that they had, which was, you know, that there might be embers, but if there's embers, we'll stamp them out. So okay, they're not embers, it's on fire, but so when does the stamping it out happen? Like, what does that mean? Since it's not like you can deploy a cure because we don't have it, presumably it means lockdowns, but you're not doing that. So what is the stamping out exactly? How do you deal with these embers? You kept saying you have a plan. Now we're seeing it. Okay, put the plan into motion. Let's see what you got. You got nothing because you don't care. That's my fear.
If you stamp out embers, you have to know where the fire is. This is the whole point about contact tracing.
Yes.
Lockdown is arguably an incredibly blunt tool to follow what might be, 20 or 30 cases in a particular county or a particular area. But we don't have the people power. We don't have the federal guidance. We don't have the money being directed toward contact tracing. No. We got money for a lot of tanks in the streets because, there's a civil rights movement, and Black people don't want to be killed by cops anymore. So yeah, mobilize the tanks for that.
Yeah. Okay, let's read a few comments before we jump back into it. I saw a comment on YouTube that said, it was from Resin Lung, who said, the female co-host sounds exactly like Sarah Silverman. And I thought, not all the time, but there's some, it's like the pacing of your sentences is actually kind of reminiscent of Sarah Silverman. You're very different in terms of your comedy, but yeah, a little bit of the voice. Well, she's awesome, so.
You mean I talk like this? Is this what you're saying?
You don't do that.
Do I talk like this? But I mean, like, I totally take it as a compliment. But...
I've never heard your Sarah Silverman impression.
I don't know.
I
tried.
Oh,
Melissa
awesome.
Villasenor does a great Sarah Silverman, if you know.
She does a lot of good impersonations, actually.
Oh, God, she's so good.
Yeah, I hope that she's back. I wonder when they're going to make those announcements. Okay, Ellie says, love watching your show. Thank you very much. Thank you, Laura. Luke Henderson says, Franny just showed how wide Trump's corn chute is. I don't even want to think about it, so I'm just going to move on. Casey Dorian says, love this. You're awesome. Thank you. Let's see. Franklin Sharpslicer has another poem for us. It says, don't give in to the caffeine scare. Concentrate on Trump's depends underwear. Another that deserves a bit of chicanery. My YO chump Liz Cheney. Let's get off the underwear, but thank you. Okay, Ariel asked a question. Do we think Trump's mask wearing is connected to Bolsonaro's recklessness? That's interesting. Bolsonaro did catch it. He looks up to Bolsonaro. Maybe. Stardust says we should wear Tokyo Ghoul masks to scare dump Trump. That seems extreme, but I'll consider it. Behoove says, sadly, I was one of the 15,299 in Florida. I had an antibody test with a blood donation and never knew I had it because I was asymptomatic. Luckily, I always wore a mask when out. Well, sounds like you're feeling better, and I'm glad for that. Can I add one thing? So I have a family member that is in a hospital in Florida right now. The family member is told that, you know how, like, you've probably heard that when you're hospitalized with COVID, you need, like, 2 negative tests to be released.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need that in Florida right now. I can't speak for the whole state, but for my family member, he will be released if he's stable, but still has an active infection of coronavirus, which says to me that they are triaging for hospital availability. I haven't heard an announcement like that, but it looks like they are now lowering the threshold and sending people with active infections back out because they desperately need the beds for people who might not survive.
Right.
That is horrifying.
It's very horrifying. And is there any, like, are we habilitating or, utilizing hotels or any sort of halfway point, midway point, so that you can still receive some care, right, without having to go back home? Who's making sure that you can stay home? Is someone bringing you groceries? I mean, whatever, all of these factors are factors about whether we can actually stamp this out or not. And I'm so sorry to hear that your relative is in the hospital. Hopefully they're better. They're doing better.
Feeling better. Still bad, but feeling better. And then there's a little bit more on hashtag Caffeine Watch 2020. On Twitch, Thunder Voice said, we need to get John one of those old sports fans helmets where he can put a monster on both sides of his head with tubes going down to his lips for him to drink from.
No!
That's a bad call. And Joseph Laundry sent us a tweet at hashtag TDR Live that says, if it helps, John, I had a paramedic instructor tell me drinking several of those energy drinks is like driving down the highway in first gear. At some point, you're going to blow. Yeah, but... So I get what you're saying. Everybody says that.
Great.
But do we know? Like, everybody says they're really bad for your heart. But is there an actual study that shows that? Like, I'll stop drinking them either way. But if someone could tweet an actual study at me. And Jess Ortega tweeted us the final word on masks and masculinity. She says, because this doesn't look masculine at all. I've been keeping up with this situation. Come on. That's pretty masculine, people. Let's all wear masks. Anyway, with that, you want to go
muscles are for cucks.
Cucks muscles are the uniform of the cuck. Anyway, okay, let's move on to some more depressing news. Over the weekend, Donald Trump did what he had been asked to do for months, and we had suspected he would. He commuted the sentence of Roger Stone, who lied to conceal Donald Trump's crimes. Stone, a longtime Republican operative, was convicted back in November of last year for obstructing a congressional investigation, lying to Congress, and witness tampering. You know, all those things that used to be bad. This was in a trial that stemmed from special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. On February 20th, Stone was sentenced to 40 months in prison. Trump's commutation landed just days before Stone was expected to report to prison on July 14th. Now, this is a commutation. It's not a pardon. It stops short of that. The conviction will remain on Stone's record, for now at least, but he won't have to serve his prison term. One of the reasons we believe this is what they did was because a pardon sort of admits that he did it, but a commutation does not, but it keeps it on his record. It's like you take one or the other, at least for now. Francesca, it's been like 2 days since this happened. How did you respond to the news breaking?
Just anger. Truly anger and rage, and also fear, because cartoons beware, all right? There is a killer who framed Roger Rabbit on the loose, and he's back out there. He's a predator, and we should all be aware that he's there. He's a cartoon villain. This is Roger Stone is a cartoon villain. He is Judge Doom. There's a couple reactions. Obviously, one of them is that you think about the number of people who are locked up for nonviolent drug offenses, people who have, videos of crack cocaine being planted on them by the police. And also how they are suffering in jails and prisons right now, which are experiencing horrible outbreaks of COVID. So that's another layer on top of it, which is partly why Roger Stone said his sentence had to be commuted, because he was at risk. So yes, just pure, sheer, unadulterated anger, and also lack of surprise. I mean, I think we all saw this coming. Yeah,
we did, which is why, like, my reaction is, I'm just going to be completely honest. This is not how I should react. I'm supposed to be ever vigilant and ever enraged. My reaction is like, yeah, that's what he's going to do. There was an investigation of the president. People lied, including the president. Never actually was interviewed. Roger Stone lied, blatantly tampered with witnesses, threatening to kill them and their dogs and stuff like that. The whole while, Trump is tweeting about how people that are rats get what they deserve, but you shouldn't be a rat and work with law enforcement. That's what the Law and Order president was saying, sort of implying that if you keep my secrets, you'll be protected. And Roger Stone did, and now he doesn't go to prison because he helped to derail an investigation into the crimes of the president. Yes. And all of this is just, yeah, that's how the system works right now. The inspector generals are all being fired. Investigations are being shut down. Obstruction of justice never has any consequences. And even if you get properly sentenced, you go through the process, you're supposed to go to jail. If you don't show complete loyalty, you'll never spend a day in jail. So that's the system that we have right now. And you can expect that if Trump gets reelected, that will be, like, even this process we've just been through will be a nice memory. Because we had a process. We're not going to have a process in the future. You'll never hear about these crimes. There won't be investigations because no one will be left who would take part in an investigation. Everyone should be infuriated by this, even though nothing will happen.
No, and I think this is where I think that the left sometimes misses the mark a little bit, because people are mad that they either feel that the Russia story was overblown or overcovered, or they, I think, don't believe it, which I believe is a big mistake. You can completely believe that it was fake. Let's say you do, but from a left perspective, you're like, yeah, the right says it's fake news, but so do I. But from a left perspective, because I hate Democrats, whatever your rationale is, there is no excuse for commuting the sentence that a jury arrived at, right? A guilty verdict that a jury arrived at for someone obstructing an investigation. No matter whether you think that investigation is real or not, like this is the law. This is how things work. And so, and then there are people who say, well, Obama commuted a bunch of sentences, of nonviolent drug offenders. And then at the very end there,
so
Chelsea Manning. Oh, yeah. Same thing. No. This is someone who's actively obstructing an investigation into the president. It is tit for tat. Like, to use a word that the president loves so much, thugs. There are thugs in the White House. Let's call them what they are. They're dangerous thugs. It's like a mafia, kleptocratic mafia mentality. Yeah. These are kleptocrats. They're turning us into looking more like Putin, and Putin's government. So I just, I
agree with you. You don't have to believe that there's literally anything with any of the Russia stuff. It's all made up. I have no interest in engaging with that argument anymore. But let's say you believe that.
Right.
You also theoretically care about executive power running rampant with no checks whatsoever. That's a bad thing, right? Yes. And my fear is that some people feel like, well, if the running rampant is tied to that thing that is like core to my identity now, is not being concerned about it, that I can't be concerned about that. And I know that it's not up to me.
Terrible
precedent. If it were up to me, I would say, no, you can still be concerned about this. I'm not even going to try to convince you about any of that. Let's never talk about it again. But we can still care about the White House accruing ever more power unconstrained by literally anything.
We can care about an investigation. I mean, Roger Stone was potentially the back channel between Russia and the Trump administration vis-a-vis WikiLeaks when it came to the DNC document dump. Okay, just putting that that's. So, don't you want an investigation of that, or do you not care? Let's go back to talking about Q and maybe Hillary Clinton was still sick or whatever we're going to talk about, whatever distraction we're going to have.
I think those are separate groups, I think.
Or, yeah, but no, I'm saying like there is a coalescing of non-believers around this particular story, and I find it insane. I find it insane that like one of the most like egregious potential conspiracies that is laid out for you by this like middling moderate Republican named Robert Mueller, former FBI. And it's right there. All the corruption's right there. And both people on the right and the left are like, nah, I don't like it. And it's just like, I don't know. It boggles my mind. Sorry, I'm getting a little too deep into this. Okay, so you still
want to engage. Okay, I'm trying to find common ground.
No, it's fine.
Corruption's bad.
Corruption is bad. Let's find common ground. I'm just saying like I do care about investigations. I think investigations matter. I think investigations into the Bush administration's war crimes still matter.
Yeah.
Right? I don't believe in just leaving it all behind.
Yeah, and look, I'm going to say this. But for me personally, best case scenario that seems likely to happen this November is that Biden wins. And here's the thing. We at TYT, TDR, and I'm sure at the Bitchuation Room are still going to be vigilant for the corruption. And I would argue that us making the case against Biden, if it becomes clear that he's doing these sorts of things, is going to be buttressed by the fact that we do it under both sides' administrations. We don't take years off when it's like kind of easy or something. Like, we do it all the time. That's what TYT's been doing forever. We got in lots of trouble under Obama for talking about things that he did, drone strikes and all that were bad. You can't take administrations off. That's what I'm saying.
Agreed.
And the Roger Stone stuff is just the most blatant. Like, that's a slam dunk. There's other cases, I get it. It's going to be a little bit harder to convince people, but like, nobody thinks that Roger Stone isn't breaking the law and isn't obstructing justice, and that should be a bad thing that there are consequences for. Anyway, with that said, somebody tweeted hashtag TDR Live, spotted in London, UK. It's one of those like standee signs they put outside of bars, and it says all Americans must be accompanied by an adult.
Oh my god,
that's pretty good.
That's brilliant.
Let's see. Jamie Blank had said Greg Rath is running against Katie Porter. Mission Viejo City Council that he is a member on just voted to cancel elections and keep themselves in office for 2 more years. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that, but that sounds really bad. Danny says, I am in New York City. People here are actually taking it seriously and following guidelines with the reopening and wearing masks. I am cautiously optimistic. That is very good to hear. Okay, Seth Bale says, I'm an essential worker in Florida. It's really scary and people are still not taking it seriously. I'm finding it difficult to not catastrophize.
I know.
I don't know what it's going to take. Like, is it going to hit 20,000, 25,000, 30,000 cases a day? Like, what does it have to hit before?
I just want to say, it's hard. I know how it feels. I know people are feeling helpless. But I do think that the protests surrounding George Floyd's murder should inspire us to say that actually when we demand something of our elected officials, when we call, when we tweet, when we bother them, when we troll them, when we, prank call them, as I like to do, things can happen. And think about all the Karens who are calling and are like, I can't breathe in my mask. And I like that. Like, think about that. Assume the Karen mentality and absolutely call your electeds, even if they're terrible people like DeSantis.
Yeah, 100%. You got to keep trying. Maybe with Trump wearing a mask, maybe DeSantis will, and he'll put it on correctly. By the way, there was a photo of Donald Trump. I didn't pull it. I should have probably. So he's wearing the mask, and normally, most of the time, he's wearing it properly. But there's a photo of him from the side where he has it under his nose, which I'm just gonna say, don't judge people based on their physical appearance. It just doesn't. It's not right. That said, it was one of the most grotesque photos I've seen in my life. But anyway, with that said, let's jump back into serious news. That was a-hole news. This is serious news. Okay, let's talk about this. I don't know if you're going to be interested in this Tucker Carlson story, Fran, but we're going to see.
So interested.
Okay. Big story of last Friday. Tucker Carlson's head writer revealed as having had a secret identity where he, for years, participated in incredibly racist and misogynistic back and forths on one of the most dark hole forums on the internet. And that is not just from years ago, which would not make it okay. Just this week, it wouldn't make it okay, I should say, but it goes up until recently. Just this week, the writer Blake Neff responded to a thread started by another user in 2018 with the subject line, and I don't want to read any of this. You know what? It's really racist. That's what I'll say. If you're on the podcast, watch the clip. It's really, really racist, and I don't feel comfortable reading even the redacted version of it. He said things like, I wouldn't get LASIK from an Asian for free. Seems weird. LASIK's thousands of dollars. Just, that's a great deal. He said that. On June 5th, this is last month, Tucker Carlson's head writer said black dudes staying inside playing Call of Duty is probably one of the biggest factors keeping crime down. And he goes on to say, this is like 3 weeks ago. Honestly, given how tired black people always claim to be, maybe the real crisis is their lack of sleep. There's lots more. There's tons. You can see it. Oliver Darcy's got a write-up on CNN Business. I'm not going to read through all the stuff. He's a crazy racist who was the head writer for the biggest name in news.
Yeah, no, I think everyone should read it. And I agree with you, John. It's disgusting to say out loud, but read them. There are many, many N-words. It's laden. It's not coded. It's open. And it's openly misogynistic. He targets like women he knows, which is so weird. He like a woman that he knows through Facebook. He just starts like starting a whole thread about how ugly she is, just like
For years.
Like, what if a 13-year-old, you pull back the curtain on Tucker Carlson, and I did expect a 13-year-old, and look, it's Blake Neff. No, not Blake Jeff, just a normal a-hole name, the two first names. No, Neff. It's like if Blake Jeff fell downstairs. Neff, like that. Just like the dumbest sounding dude bro name, Blake Neff.
If anyone watching this is named Blake or Jeff, I still love you. Can't speak for Francesca.
Yeah, but put them together and then add an N. Also, Tucker Carlson apparently said that he was a, quote, great writer, constantly talking about what a great writer he is. And it's clear that he pretty much wrote most of Tucker Carlson's scripts and he lightly edited it. And so, yes, this is what happens when you have an actual racist and then you make it for Fox News and it's just crypto racist, right? They're like actual fascist, crypto fascist. This is, you just take out the N-word, you take out the F-bombs. It's the exact same message of blaming people for their own oppression, and the hostility and the white nationalism. It's disgusting. And it's
100%.
A great writer. Like, this is what's great about it also is like, oh yeah, it's a great, like the syntax, the number of racial slurs that he's able to find.
All the verbs are active.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
No perspective breaks. Adverbs at a minimum. So here's the thing. Like, when I saw it, I thought, of course. Yeah, he wouldn't have a head writer who wasn't a racist. The funny thing, as many people pointed out, is that this guy, like, finishes up a long shift at Tucker Carlson, and then he's like, oh, okay, now I can finally be myself and be more racist. I've been suffering under the ever woke environment of Tucker Carlson for too long. Now I can really let loose. And here's the thing. I want to show you, like, when I saw the first headline, it was he secretly posted racist things elsewhere, and I thought, well, okay, I get that that's a story. He's the head writer and everything, but like, isn't it kind of like a bigger story that, like, publicly Tucker Carlson calls Iraqis semi-literate primitive monkeys? Or when Tucker Carlson says that migrants make America poorer and dirtier on that same show? Not secretly, not on a forum. He said that on the show. Or when Tucker Carlson called white supremacy a hoax. Or when Tucker Carlson spread the white genocide South Africa farmer conspiracy theory multiple times on his show. That is just stuff bubbling up from the darkest white supremacist forums online straight to the guy with the biggest audience in the world. And that's not secret. That's not on a forum. And that wasn't just the writer. That was Tucker Carlson saying this stuff. It was Tucker Carlson that spent the entirety of the civil rights protests that are going on right now viciously maligning the protesters, calling them the true racists, saying they're coming for you. They're going to be roaming the streets, black militias with guns. I don't like Blake Neff's secret racism, but I am more worried about Tucker Carlson's public racism.
I mean, I am a little, Blake Neff comes from the Daily Caller, right?
Yep.
This is what happens, like all of these people that now have jobs at the major outlet Fox News came from places like the Daily Caller or the Blaze or I don't know, Breitbart, and we see the fringe to mainstream pipeline so clearly. It's like if only, right? Like, stories and things that we spoke about here on TYT made it into any kind of mainstream news. They might actually talk about a real issue. But yeah, this is behind Tucker Carlson is a 13-year-old who thinks bigotry is a personality.
Yeah.
And he goes by the pseudonym Charles the 12th, and this is great. Charles XII was known for his military victories, and also he abstained from sex and alcohol, right? That this was the way. Oh my gosh, is that Blake?
That's the photo I've been able to find of him.
Oh God. Oh God. So Neff is a history buff interested in wars and military bases and has repeatedly disclosed on the forum that he rarely drinks and I'm sure abstains from sex, which has got to be hard because look at him. Look at him.
I will say there does seem to be a sort of connection, a correlation, if you will, between the sort of incelism that is implicit in that with the lashing out, the misogyny. Because remember, it's not just racism. It was extreme misogyny. He seemed potentially more devoted to the misogyny than the racism. Still, horrific racist. Yeah. And so, look, Fox News has fired the guy. Tucker didn't bring it up on Friday. He attacked CNN, not specifically about this. Supposedly, he's going to address it on Monday. I'm going to imagine he's not going to take it very seriously. And he's going to imply that this is cancel culture and all of that, and pretend that we shouldn't be worried that an out-and-out N-word spewing racist was writing monologues for this newsman. That's what I would say. I do want to briefly give credit because we have been talking about Tucker Carlson and his racism a lot on the show recently. This is brilliant timing on Blake Neff's part, by the way. And not too long ago, this is last week, on Wednesday's show, Jared Jackson wanted to point out that all of these racist attacks against BLM, the anti-scientific attacks against mask wearing, this is not just him like Sean Hannity style opining or like Rush Limbaugh in his second hour, that this is all scripted. Jared pointed that out. Here's a bit from that show.
He's talented at manipulating the argument when you're not arguing with anyone. And obviously he's reading it, so this is all a pre-thought-out plan. This is just the way it works. People will watch people on TV, or audiences will watch Tucker on TV and think that he's coming up with these amazing points that are well thought out, and he's just spewing them off top of his head. No, this guy's reading a prepared statement, and if it goes 25 minutes, every word of it was prepared.
Yep.
There's a plan behind every word, the way it's said, and then how it's
So, yeah, it's super timely. Like 2 days later, the guy writing those scripts, we find out, was a crazy racist. Are we supposed to imagine that that didn't influence Tucker's BLM coverage or any of that? Like, when he calls white supremacy a hoax, is that not related to the fact that he surrounds himself with insane white supremacists? Anyway, let's play one other video, because,
Sure.
Look, Tucker Carlson is rightfully being attacked for his constant spewing of white supremacist narratives and talking points and conspiracy theories and stuff like that. But I want to let people know that it is obviously not just Tucker Carlson. It's not just the hosts on Fox News that are doing this. They can bring on guests, including elected Republicans, and get just choice white nationalist propaganda like this.
There is an attempted cultural genocide going on in America right now, and it calls for patriots to stand up and say, this is a great country. It is worthy of our pride and our defense. The left wants us to be ashamed of America.
Okay, so, and he goes on to say that we're not going to let them replace America. Okay, so they bring on a Republican congressman. He says there's a cultural genocide. Okay, we shouldn't be ashamed of our pride, and that we can't let them replace us. I mean, like, he didn't say the 14 words, but that's pretty explicitly as close as he's willing to come to just straight white supremacist talking points there. He hit all of the highlights, all their favorites.
No, he absolutely did. I'm like, you know, in my heart, there's just like a little cloud that's like, I get so sad and scared, you know, because truly what this country has to do, in addition to stamping out a pandemic, is stamping out the, pandemic of white supremacy and the number of militias and white nationalist groups and, Discord chats and whatever, unite the right creatures and urchins that come out with their shields and their weird logos. Like, we have so much work to do, right? I mean, we're still fighting the Civil War somehow. And in fact, ironically, the reason that we have to fight right now is because we didn't do a good enough job in the past. We don't want to undo what's been done. We want to actually put the nail in the coffin of history in the Confederacy, in bigotry, in the idea of racial superiority, like, so we can move forward. So, I mean, it's upsetting how much work we have to do. And Matt Gaetz can eat a big, what.
Okay. Yeah. He's one of the worst. And, I mean, he knows what he's doing. Like, the strategy is, like, it's reprehensible. He's a terrible racist and all that. I don't care what shenanigans he does to try to provide cover for himself personally. It doesn't matter. He's a crazy racist. And we should never let him live down the fact that he mocked concern over the pandemic in the opening weeks of the U.S. version by wearing a gas mask on the House floor when legislation was initially being put together to do something about it. He thought it was a big joke. How's Florida doing now? Ted Cruz and, you know, all them, they think it's so funny. How's Texas doing right now? Are your jokes and your lib-owning protecting Texan and Floridian lives? It doesn't seem like it. It seems like maybe a change in strategy would be necessary. But he knows what he's doing. He's supposed to go on Fox and, you know, like give a wink and a nod to Q and white supremacy. And that is the single best thing he can do right now, not to save American lives, but to increase the odds that someday he's a Republican nominee for president. Like, it's crazy, but it is the best strategy considering the base that he's trying to appeal to. Let's quickly end with a bit more nonsense. How about that? Do you have a few more minutes?
I don't know. I need a cold shower.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we all do.
I need like 10 cold showers.
10 cold showers, back to back. Get out, dry off, get right on back in. Okay. You need the shock to the system.
Yes.
Anyway, here's a shock to the system. So many people have noted that Trump's lack of interest in the pandemic, his lack of concern for American lives, perhaps should not have come as a big surprise to us because we had a massive sort of preview of this, and that was Hurricane Maria and the devastation that it wrought. Thousands of lives lost in Puerto Rico. Trump did not care at all. The most he gave them was a couple of chucked paper towel things. Didn't care. Got in an insane feud with a Puerto Rican politician. It was an embarrassment. And all of that is what happened in public. What happened behind the scenes might even be crazier. Because recently it was revealed that Elaine Seaduke, then President Trump's acting Secretary of Homeland Security, said she was taken aback during the response to Hurricane Maria's devastation of Puerto Rico when she heard Mr. Trump raise the possibility of divesting or selling the island as it struggled to recover. Selling Puerto Rico. Hold.
Okay, I'm just gonna.
No, you don't hold. You go. What's up?
I'm holding. I'm gonna hold my hand up.
You had a wait. What question could you have about us selling Puerto Rico? Okay, fine. Go ahead. You have a question.
Yeah,
I can't imagine what it is.
Mr. Iadarola, can you sell Puerto Rico? Can America just sell Puerto Rico?
In this economy, well, probably not.
Who's buying?
Yeah, not with that attitude, Francesca. That's not how you sell off parts of America and, you know, just kick a few million American citizens out of the country. Not with that attitude. She says the president's initial ideas were more of as a businessman, you know, and that's what he was elected to do, right? Be a businessman. Can we outsource the electricity? Can we sell the island, you know, or divest of that asset? She said the idea of selling Puerto Rico was never seriously considered or discussed after Mr. Trump raised it. I would argue it was never seriously considered as he was raising it, but it was considered because he's the president and because so many people were dying and it reflected poorly on him, he thought, let's sell it to someone.
Yeah, Florida, if you keep up, you know, the number of COVID cases, eventually Trump will be like, can we just sell Florida off?
Cue Bugs Bunny gif of him sawing the state off. Doesn't work like that. Yeah, we used to sell states and stuff. That was a thing that happened. Generally, territory doesn't get sold in this century. But I want to remind people of this because it's very easy to forget things. Even the craziest things that like took over a news cycle or whatever, we forget that they happened. To give an idea of who Donald Trump is, when Puerto Rico needed our help most, he wanted to sell them off. But he also, you might recall, wanted to purchase property. Do you remember where? He wanted to buy Greenland. Remember when that was the news? He wanted to purchase Greenland. Why?
To bankrupt it.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, and this is the ironic thing about trying to sell Puerto Rico, is that Puerto Rico's been sold to the highest bidder for decades, for its entire history. It's been sold for parts. It's been utilized by the United States as a shell game and a shell company. The bonds that now are devalued, where it was basically purchasing Puerto Rican bonds and helping to fasten that island's own debt, like the protectorate's own debt, right? Like the United States did that. We've already indebted Puerto Rico. We've already sold it off. Now that there's no more to sell, what do we want to do? Just sell the entire thing? So it's an incredibly crass thing to say, and also incredibly ignorant of what the country has already been through. What Puerto Rico has already been through. I keep saying country. There is an independence movement, and believe you me, if Republicans keep this up, that independence movement to make Puerto Rico actually a separate country will win. But not before they demand reparations and what they deserve from the United States.
No, I'm glad for all of what you just added. You're 100% right. Like the financial context that he slides into, probably not understanding any of it or caring, by the way. He doesn't care about their suffering in terms of financial exploitation any more than he did their suffering as a result of a hurricane. He provided basically no assistance in either case. And only basically unleashed the same wolves on them again to take advantage of the situation, classic disaster capitalism and all that. But you're 100% right, Francesca. And with that, that's all the time we have. But thank you so much for joining us and making the beginning of the week just slightly more fantastic. You're the best.
Thank you so much, John. Have a good week.
Where can people see more of your stuff?
Oh my gosh. At Franny Fio, FRANIFIO, on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, the Bitchuation Room podcast. Listen to it. Let me know.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thanks, John. Take care.
And for those of you at home, let's see what's been going on a bit before we close for the day. Okay. Obi-Mom Kenobi gifted a 1-month tier 1 Twitch sub to Melanie44. Obi-Mom Kenobi, thank you so much. And welcome to the group, Melanie. Glad to have you here. Albino Bad Guy tweeted me at hashtag TDR Live with a photo of a guy with a MAGA hat and the mask over his eyes. I think that might be from before the pandemic, but it is still very funny. In terms of the super chats, CDC says masks are masculine and less fragile. P.S. I quit smoking 2 months ago after 17 years. I swear it gets easier after the first week. You can do it, John. Congratulations, CD. And by the way, let me just obviously acknowledge that cutting down or even out of caffeine is way easier than what you are currently succeeding in. So congrats to you. Charles Massey says, Matt Gaetz, quote, still toolin' since 2016. 100%. Exoteric says, Tool, I know. Steven, thank you. Sean Erdwin says, do you think that the Lincoln Group will win the Democrats, the White House, and the Senate because their attack ads are better than Democrat ads? Look, I don't know if the Lincoln Project ads actually get through to anyone. I appreciate them because they mock Republicans and they're funny, and Democrats don't generally do that. And I will say that one of the things I disagree with some people who I agree with a lot on the left, like online lefties, is like, oh, don't praise the Lincoln Group or Lincoln Project. And I think, I get it. They're terrible people. I say that literally every time we cover one of them. They're terrible people. Don't support them. And literally the second this election is done, go back to ignoring them. But if they're making good ads now, learn a lesson from it. And learn no other lesson just about the ads. Can't we enjoy anything? Can't we enjoy anything? We can't enjoy monsters anymore. Can we at least join ads that mock Mitch McConnell? Can we at least enjoy that? Riley Jones says, you two make my Monday, and Francesca's J. Piro sleepy drunk voice last week was amazing. Please do more. We're going to have to bring her back on. Edward says, we should start hashtag show us the pull-ups on Trump's tweets, only if it's the exercise pull-ups. Okay. Demon says, I drank 2 to 3 20-ounce Red Bulls a day for 3 years. I think you'll be okay, John. To which one of our producers says, Red Bull for the win, tropical flavor is the best. I don't drink Red Bulls. That's the thing. I like Monsters, and that's pretty much it. But I'm not drinking any. If they had the non-caffeinated ones, I would drink it. But right now I'm on 1 coffee and decaf coffee, and that's it. Maybe some decaf soda or something like that. But that's it. Cujo says, Florida's the right to work state. We can't protest, strike, or unionize without risking being fired. Yeah, that also needs to be fought back against those sorts of things. Gina says, I know a few people have had COVID-19, but they survived. I do wish we had a better state government here in Florida. I do too. And with a family member in a Florida hospital right now, I'm right there with you. Okay. High Street Radio Cafe says, to quote Samuel Jackson, quote, just stay the F home, signed my grandson's grandma. Nice. Carson Rodkey says, Disneyland cast member here. We're trying to get Disney to provide mandatory regular testing for cast. They don't want to budge. It's sickening. I'm sorry to hear that. Carson, I need to find out what you do at Disney. Because someday, when it's safe, I want to go back to Disney. I've only been there once. It was right before the pandemic. I would like to see it at some point. Maybe we could get one of those fancy Star Wars drinks for a minute. Anyway, and Casey Dorian says, Chuck Woolery blocked me on Twitter. It's my crowning social media achievement. 100%. Trump hasn't blocked me. I always found that to be odd. I guess I don't tweet about it nearly as much as I did a few years ago. Anyway, with that, thank you everyone for joining us and being so supportive, taking part in the chat and Twitch and tweeting and super chats and all that. We really do appreciate it. I will say I am going to be doing the main show with Cenk Uygur, I believe, tomorrow and Wednesday. So you get 2 of those this week. Tomorrow, Jordan Yule is going to be joining us on the show. On Thursday, I think for the first time during the pandemic at the very least, Dan from the internet will be hosting the show on Thursday. So you're definitely not going to want to miss that. We got lots planned, so stay tuned and also stay safe out there.